Okay, moving on to day 2. Okay, I know it's quick, but we got to move on because we're out of time here. Genesis 1:6, and God said, "Let there be a firmament, that is an expanse between the waters, to separate water from water." So God made the expanse and separated the water under the expanse from the water above it. And it was so. God called the expanse sky, and there was evening, there was morning, the second day. So what's going on here?
Well, again, important to recognize Genesis from an apologetic standpoint. God, the transcendental creator, but he's also the immanent sustainer. God is immanent in his creation, preparing it, developing it. St. Augustine, one of the great church fathers, said that other than the resurrection, the greatest miracle is God's creation. And so some type of stable water source is being here developed by God in preparation for the days that will follow.
All right, Mr. Scientist, you have said the fact that advanced life can survive only if the evaporation and precipitation average between 25 and 60 liquid water inches per year. And then if you want abundance of life, you've got to have moisture changing geographically in different parts of the earth, right, ranging from 2 inches to 600 inches. And then you've got the luminosity of the sun that we know is, 17% brighter now than it was at the beginning of the earth?
17% brighter.
So you need more moisture, you got to have the sunlight coming in, everything's got to be balanced. Tell us scientifically what you're finding out's going on in day 2 here.
Well, in day 2, I believe it's God speaking about water in the atmosphere above and water in the ocean below, and the transfer of water from the ocean to the atmosphere and back. This is the water cycle. One of my friends, Dr. Robert Newman, who's an astrophysicist and a theologian, that was his theology thesis, was an analysis of just that day 2, drawing the strong conclusion it's a definitive reference to God setting up a stable, long-lasting water cycle. And this really ties into the third creation day in terms of the continents. The only way to get water falling relatively evenly over the whole surface of the earth is if you position the continents just right relative to the ocean, and the moon has to be in just the right position to make sure the rotation rate is what you need in order to get this well-distributed water cycle flowing over the face of the earth.
What else is happening here, Fuzz?
Well, what's implied here is that if, as Ken mentioned, God is deeply involved in bringing this about, and just the fine-tuning to maintain or even to establish a water cycle and then to maintain it for the entire Earth's history is incredibly remarkable. The atmospheric composition has to be fine-tuned, the pressure has to be fine-tuned in the Earth's atmosphere. You have to have the right amount of land mass, you have to have the right life forms at the right time. It's incredible fine-tuning that speaks very powerfully of divine design.
Hugh, you say that God had to be involved in this water cycle because scientists have recently found a deadly imbalance in the water cycle and a remarkable phenomenon that compensates for it, namely comets.
Well, the Earth loses a tiny amount of water to outer space. It's a very slow leakage. But over the course of billions of years, it adds up. But likewise, there's a very slow input of water from comets. Microcomets, mini-comets, as well as regular comets bring in this supply of water. And the two are in balance. So Earth is able to maintain the water it needs.
But then you got to also have the balance. The sun is changing.
Right.
Talk about that in relationship to the moisture on the Earth, cold, hot, and so on.
Well, the sun, for the last 3 billion years, has been getting progressively more and more luminous. Now, this would be deadly for life on Earth unless the atmosphere of the Earth were transformed gradually over those past 3 billion years so that the greenhouse gases become less and less efficient in their capacity to trap heat. And you want to keep it in perfect balance. Otherwise, the water cycle will be disturbed. And so here we see incredible fine-tuning from God's perspective, creating just the right life forms at just the right time, fine-tuning the plate tectonics and the volcanism of the Earth so that in combination, life with this plate tectonics and volcanism gradually removes carbon dioxide and water vapor from the atmosphere, transforming into carbonates and sand and coal, oil, and natural gas. If you get out of sync ever so slightly with the wrong life forms at the wrong time or in the wrong abundance or the wrong diversity, suddenly you're going to disturb that water cycle You're going to get a runaway greenhouse effect or a runaway freeze-up of the planet, and all life dies.
As an astrophysicist, then, is the Genesis record accurate to science?
It's in the correct chronological sequence and is giving the correct scientific description of each of the events that we see. And moreover, it's the primary events. And we've already asked the question, what are the most significant events in preparing the planet for human beings are the ones we see recorded in Genesis 1. The right chronological sequence, the correct scientific description. Could Moses have pulled that off without God's divine inspiration? Impossible.